Too much.
You are unmuted.
Court's in session.
So that conversation we had about the photo earlier, Commonwealth used a photo that is blurred out.
Excuse me, Your Honor?
The Commonwealth is to use the photo that is blurred out,
The blurry one.
the blurring one, and that's upon the representation that the defense is not contesting that that is a photo of her. Correct?
Not gonna know the blurred one is fine, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, and there's no dispute that that's a photo of her, and you're content with me saying that to the jury.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm. Yes, sure.
Is entering, all rise. Please be seated. Clerk's now in session. Turn off your cell phones, please.
Commonwealth may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would call Christopher Bernasconi. Sir, could you just call me, please? Please, clerk, just raise your right hand for me, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you shall give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you,
Right this way. Just do me a favor, just take your time. Just watch your step. You're gonna have a seat. Just pull that one close. Well, speak in the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, it's Christopher Bernasconi, and the last name is Bernasconi.
Where do you work, sir?
I work for TJ Maxx.
What do you do for TJ Maxx?
I'm a district loss prevention manager for District 1102, which is Metro Boston.
And how long have you been with TJ Maxx?
30 years.
And within Metro Boston, does that include the Norwell store?
It does not.
It does not. Have you had the opportunity to review videos from the Norwell store, though?
Yes.
And have you been designated as the keeper of records for TJ Maxx for those videos?
Yes.
And have you helped produce those videos prior to coming to court today?
Yes.
Did you review them and make sure that they were that they had not been altered in any way?
Yes.
One of the videos, though, there's a person that's blurred. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Is that then because the person wasn't 18?
That is correct.
Now, the videos that you turned over, that you helped produce from TJ Maxx, that was done in January of 2023, correct?
That's correct.
And TJ Maxx, they maintain their videos in the normal course of business,
Correct.
and they are done in good faith?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Sir, is this the drive that you were looking at that had the videos from TJ Maxx on it?
It is.
It is for January 4th of 2023, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to have the drive of the January 4th, 2023 TJ Maxx videos from Norwell.
Any objection to that?
No objection.
And the TJ Maxx thumb drive of 1/4/23 is now in evidence as Exhibit 263.
Your Honor, may the Commonwealth publish Exhibit 263?
You may.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, could we have the first video entrance? And Ms. Gilman, if you could press pause. Sir, where is this in the Norwell store?
This is referred to as the entry public view monitor, capturing the entrance of the TJ Maxx in Norwell.
And Ms. Gilman, could you go to 1 minute and 28 seconds on the video player? And Mr. Bernasconi, at the top of the video is a label. That is, do you see that? 2003-0104? The title of the video?
Yes,
You see that?
I do.
Okay. And the time on the video, is it fair to say that's 9:44 and 24 seconds as far as the start time?
That's correct.
Sir, are there any issues with the TJ Maxx videos as far as the accuracy of their time?
They're very accurate.
If you could press play. Ms. Gilman, could we have the second video cue? And Ms. Gilman, could you go to 8 minutes and 12 seconds on the video player, media player? Thank you, Ms. Gilman. And if you could press play. Sir, where is this in the store?
This is the public view monitor in the queue line, which is essentially the checkout area.
And Ms. Gilman, can we go to the final video for register 4? Sir, where is this in the store?
This is above the cash register, register 4, I believe.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. And Your Honor, may I approach one last time?
You may.
Mr. Bernasconi, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Is this a receipt for the transaction that you just showed us videos of?
It is.
The Commonwealth would seek to have the receipt from TJ Maxx for January 4th from Norwell as the next exhibit.
Any objection?
No objection.
The receipt that corresponds to Exhibit 263 is now in evidence as 264.
And Your Honor, may the Commonwealth
Publish it, yes?
publish it? I just want to make sure I caught it to the court reporter.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Mr. Bernasconi, what is the address for this store?
It's 10 Washington Street, Norwell, Massachusetts.
And does this share a parking lot with another TJX store?
Yes, the home goods division.
And could we go all the way down to the bottom? Right there. Sir, how is this transaction conducted? Was it cash or charge?
It was a store value card used to make payment in this particular transaction.
And how much was the transaction for?
$133.94.
And going all the way down to the bottom, if we may, what was the date and time of the transaction?
January 4th, 2023 at 9:53:59 a.m.
Thank you, sir. No further questions. Your Honor.
No cross. Witness may step down. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commonwealth may call its next witness.
The Commonwealth would call Alyssa Kirby.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You can be seated.
You just follow me, please, okay? Take your time, just watch your step. You can have a seat. Just pull that chair a little tight.
Okay,
You may proceed.
thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your full name for the record and spell your name?
Yes, Alyssa Kirby, ALISSA KIRB as in boy, Y.
And where were you living in December of 2022?
I was living in Chevy Chase, Washington, D.C.
And were you familiar with Anna and Brian Walsh?
Yes.
And how were you familiar with the Walshes?
We were friends. I was introduced through my brother and sister-in-law.
And what's your brother's name?
Peter Kirby.
And so how would you characterize your relationship with Anna Walsh?
Yeah. Anna and I quickly became really close friends. And yeah, we were new best friends, we called it. And we spent a lot of time together. We just kind of clicked like sisters.
And when did you become so close?
Shortly after she moved to Washington, D.C. and lived nearby.
So you said she lived nearby?
Yes.
Can you tell us how far she lived from you?
About 5 minutes around the corner, 5-minute walk.
And how often would you see her when you, once she moved to Washington, D.C.?
I would say we planned to try see each other about once a week. It wasn't always that, but about that.
And how often would you communicate with her?
Similarly, about once a week, or when she would come back to DC, we'd talk about when we could meet up and hang out.
And did you know Will Fastow?
I knew of him, yes.
And how did you know of Will Fastow?
Shortly after I started spending more time with Anna, she would talk to me about him as the man who sold her house, but then her interest in him and just hearing a lot about him as a person.
And what did she tell you about him?
She told me of that she was interested in him, that she had a crush on him, but it was a lot more talk about their connection and, like, I guess what she wanted to have happen with him and her, I guess, just her interest.
And what did she tell you about telling Brian Walsh about this crush on Will Fastow?
She told me that she was open with Brian about her crush on Will and that he knew.
In Christmas of 2022, did you have communication with Brian Walsh on that day?
Yes.
And how did that happen?
Brian called me that day, and because he rarely or almost never called me, I answered, and he was looking for Anna because he said he hadn't heard from her. And so because she lived around the corner, I offered to go over there and check on her.
And what happened? Did you go over and check on her?
As I was getting ready to go, he had messaged me back that he had gotten in touch with her.
So when you say that you had talked to him first and offered to check on her, did you do that in text, on the phone, or something else?
I believe that first time was a phone call, and then later was a text message.
And do you remember what time of day that phone call was?
Not exactly, but maybe I feel like it was noon or early afternoon.
Okay. And what was his demeanor when you spoke to him on the phone?
That day, I think he was worried or a little bit nervous.
And approximately how long was it after you had spoken to him that he texted you?
I think it was within like 10 minutes because I was getting ready to go, and it was fast enough that I hadn't left yet.
And did you speak with Anna Walsh that day on Christmas Day?
Yes.
And when did you speak with Anna Walsh that day?
It was late, much later that day in the afternoon. I was already with family for the holiday, and she called me as she was driving up to Massachusetts.
And what was her demeanor when she called you?
She was very upset.
And when you say very upset, can you describe that?
Yeah, she was angry, and she was upset that Brian would have called me that day because, she said that she'd only not spoken to him for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, that it really hadn't been that long. And, there was already some strife, and then she had...
Sustained, non-responsive. So I'll strike the last part. Ask a next question.
Certainly. So how long did you speak with her for that day?
Maybe like 20 minutes.
And did you arrange to see her again?
Yes.
And when did you plan to see Anna Walsh?
I can't remember exactly when we planned it, but I know we had planned a day to get together right before New Year's to kind of see each other, hang out, catch up, and like celebrate like a New Year's together.
And did you see her to have that celebration?
Yes.
And what day was that you saw her to have that celebration?
I believe it was the 29th.
And that was the 29th of what month?
Oh, December.
Of 2022.
Correct.
And where did you go?
We went a few places. We started at the bar that was across from where we lived that we'd been to a few times. And then we later went out to a karaoke dancing bar.
And how long did you stay out that night?
Like 6 hours.
So, what was her demeanor that night?
So that night, because of what happened after Christmas, she was really upset. She was kind of breaking down because everything had been really hard, which Anna was always a very strong person, so that was very unusual for her. And she was just really upset about so much. She really hit a breaking point. And yeah, we talked about a lot of things because she was so upset.
Ms. Kirby, can you tell me what she was upset about?
She was primarily upset about her and Brian's relationship, about being so far away from the kids, and feeling like she was upset having found out that the federal case was delayed, or she thought that the federal case was delayed by Brian, and that she just really wanted to be with her kids. Their marriage had been really strained for a long time, and she told me how like upset she was and how frustrating that was, and how she was really at a breaking point.
Jurors, I'm going to remind you that the statements that are being offered with regard to Anna Walsh's state of mind are admissible, again, limited to establishing her state of mind, as is relevant to the defendant's motive to kill. To the extent that such state of mind evidence includes statements describing the defendant's federal case, Anna's statements are admitted only to show the defendant's motive and not to show that he had a bad character or propensity to commit any criminal offense. You may proceed.
Thank you. Had you seen her like this before?
No. Anna was usually someone very, very happy, very joyful, very strong.
Okay, no characterizations, just your observations. Next question.
When talking, did she use specific words about what she had said to the defendant? Which she had said to Brian Walsh about the legal case?
What she told me about that was that she was upset because she wanted him to take responsibility. She wanted their family together. She wanted that whole process to be over, and she wanted him to be responsible, be accountable, and do whatever he had to do to keep their family together.
And what did she mean? What did she tell you that she meant by the word responsibility?
Yeah, at that point in time, responsibility was potentially just taking jail time and admitting wrongdoing and just owning a mistake, and so that their family, that she would be waiting for them and that their family could be together.
Did she give you specifics of what she had told you about the amount of time?
I think it was all an estimate, but at the time she thought maybe a year.
What did she tell you about the physical separation and her family staying together?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask that well. What did she tell you about being in different states and what that physical separation might mean?
Yeah, that it was really difficult for the family, but that also, because of how difficult things were, she was contemplating what that could mean legally being able to take her children to Washington, D.C., and also the physical separation from a husband was very difficult for her.
What, if anything, did she tell you about having established a separate household?
Oh, that she had told me that everything was set up in her name, the house in Washington, D.C., and the bills were, everything was in her name. So she was trying to figure out a way that she could have the kids with her in D.C.
What, if anything, did she tell you about her intimate relationship with Brian Walsh?
She told me that, aside from everything being really difficult, that they had not been intimate in a really long time, like maybe over a year, I think she had said.
And what did she tell you as to why?
She said it was because that Brian had been really depressed and that the strain of the case had really just taken a toll on his mental health and their marriage, and that she felt also that that her energy was being really drained. Yeah.
Was she specific about what she meant by her energy being drained?
Yeah, at that time, she was saying that Brian was calling her several times a day, that she felt physically and emotionally exhausted traveling back and forth from DC to Massachusetts. It was just a lot on her body, mind, soul, and spirit. And that, yeah, that also just like emotionally feeling like she had to be the strong one was very draining for her.
What did she tell you about Brian and his mother?
She had always said that.
Your Honor, objection.
I'll see you at the side of the bench.
Ms. Kirby, in this conversation on December 29th, what did she tell you about Brian and his mother and a psychic?
She told me that Brian had told her that his mom went to a psychic and that the psychic had said that she was having an affair. And that night she told me how ridiculous that was and how like she was very upset by that. And she'd always felt that Brian's mom didn't like her, and that it was scary.
Did she say why? Why that was scary?
Yeah, I think because she always.
Objection as to, I think.
Yes, sustained.
Did she say why? Not your opinion, just did she say why in that conversation?
Yes, what she said as to why was that she felt like his mom never really liked her and never like wanted her in the picture, basically.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask to publish from one picture from Exhibit 145 on page 39.
It's already in evidence.
It is already in evidence,
You may publish.
just the picture.
You may publish it.
Thank you. Ms. Kirby, do you recognize that picture? Yes. Can you tell me who's that a picture of?
Picture of me and Anna.
And when was that picture taken?
That night we went out on the 29th.
I'm sorry, did you say that was the night from the 29th? That was
Yeah.
during that night of December 29th? Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that down. Did you see Anna Walsh after the evening of December 29th into December 30th, because you said you were out late, of 2022?
No.
When did, if you know, when did she leave for Massachusetts?
She left that next day on the 30th.
And when did you expect her to return to Washington, D.C.?
I think she had said like the third or fourth. It was a few days after New Year's. She was planning to come back.
Of January?
Correct.
Okay. And when was the last time that you communicated with Anna Walsh?
Right after midnight on New Year's Day.
And after that exchange with Anna Walsh on New Year's Day, right after midnight, did you get text from Brian Walsh?
Yes, on the 2nd.
Your Honor, I'd ask to get an exhibit and then approach.
You may.
I'm approaching with exhibit 164.
164?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
You want to just look at that for a moment? Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And you can look through it all.
Okay. Okay.
And what are those?
Text messages between me and Brian.
Your Honor, may we publish exhibit 164 for the jury?
You may.
Thank you. So I'd specifically like to ask about on January 3rd, if we could go down. Can you read on page 2, can you read that in green?
Yes. It says, hello, I know we did this a week ago, but have you heard from Anna?
And how did you respond to that?
I said, hey, Brian, sorry for the delay. Was sleeping. I have the flu and I'm super sick. I texted with Anna on New Year's Day, but no, haven't heard from her. Is she working today? She's usually running around super busy with work.
And when did you send that?
It looks like on January 3rd at 12:51 p.m.
And then did Mr. Walsh respond to you?
He said, you're right. I'll let you know when she calls. Feel better soon.
And then did you contact him later?
After that, I said, thank you. Yeah, and then the next morning, I was sick, so I slept the whole day. And the next morning, when I realized I hadn't heard back, I texted him, did you ever hear back?
And then what happened?
And then he said, no, they're looking for work now. And that's when I got really scared that something was wrong.
So what did you do after hearing that?
After that, I called my brother and I asked if he had heard from her and was explaining the situation.
You're allowed to object at this point.
Well, we can stop the publication. I'm sorry.
Sustain.
So just tell me what you did. What did you do?
Oh, after the text message, I called my brother and
That's fine. That's
Okay.
all. And then what did you do after calling your brother? Did you speak with Brian Walsh at some point on the phone?
I did, but I don't remember if it was later that day or the next day on the
Okay.
phone.
And who was on the phone with Brian Walsh?
There were some calls that was just me and Brian, and there was one call with Brian and his mother.
And what was the call with Brian and his mother like?
Well, his mother was pretty combative. I think she sounded
You approach sidebar? Yes.
going back for just a moment on the 29th, did Anna ever tell you how Brian reacted to his mother saying, the psychic saying that she was having an affair?
Yeah, she told me that he thought it was equally as crazy, or that was what he said to her.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to swap out one and give you another. Recognize that jacket.
Yes.
Can you tell me what?
Just stay on the microphone so we can hear you.
Sorry. Can you tell me how you recognize that jacket?
As Anna's jacket, one that she wore.
Your Honor, I'd ask that this be the next exhibit.
All right, any objection to that?
None, thank you.
Jurors, that'll be marked into an evidence as Exhibit 264, photo of Anna. The jurors, the face of Anna Walsh is blurred out for that photo, but there's no dispute that that is a photo of her in the jacket, in a jacket. Thank you. 265? Oh, yes. Thank you.
265.
265, yes.
And I'd ask that this be published to the jury, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cross? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kirby.
Good afternoon.
It sounds like you and Anna got very close very fast.
Yes.
When she was down there, you guys would try to see each other about once a week?
Yeah.
Okay. And while she was down there, she was working for Tishman Speyer,
Yes.
and obviously you would text or talk on the phone sometimes during the week,
Yes.
and sometimes go for coffee walks around the neighborhoods.
Not coffee, but often walks, or we would meet up. Yeah.
I'm imposing my own desire in that. Okay.
Okay.
And her work schedule was pretty demanding while she was down in DC.
Yes.
And it wasn't uncommon that she would work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that was what she would tell me. Yes.
Okay. And then on top of that, she was flying back and forth to Boston on Thursdays or Fridays and returning on Sunday nights or Mondays.
Yeah, often Mondays and then returning Thursday or Friday.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about that Christmas Day phone call from Mr. Walsh.
Okay.
You had mentioned that it was not common or out of the ordinary for him to have called you.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you described him on that call as nervous and worried, right?
Yes.
And this was Christmas Day?
Yes.
And I think you told us it was about noon or a little bit past noon when he had reached out to you?
Mhm.
And what he said is that he and the boys were expecting her home for Christmas and he hadn't heard from her.
What I recall he said was just asking me if I had heard from her because he hadn't heard from her.
Okay. And because of that nervousness or worry in his voice, you actually offered to go swing by her house to see if she was there.
Yeah, I thought that she was already back home for Christmas. And so that worried me. So I offered to go over.
Okay. And I think you said within 10 or 15 minutes, he actually reached out to be like, we're good. She reached out to me. She's okay.
He said he had heard from her.
Okay. You had told us that you had also spoken to Anna on the 25th on the telephone.
Yes.
And you were telling us that she was angry and upset that Mr. Walsh had called you.
Yes. She was angry that, he had bothered me that day with that because she felt it had not been that long since they had spoken.
Okay. So it was Christmas Day and she was upset that he bothered you on a holiday
Mhm.
and that he worried you.
Mhm.
You had mentioned that Anna had a friend named William Fastow.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you told us that she shared with you that she had a crush on him.
Yes.
And she told you that she told her husband that she had a crush on him.
Yes.
And that Anna, when she was talking about sharing that with her husband, that they always had an open, honest relationship.
Yes, that was what she said.
Okay. And in that conversation, when she was telling you about how she had told her husband about having a crush on Will, that Brian wasn't the jealous type.
When she told me that, I was surprised, and she said that was their relationship. They were open, and that he wasn't jealous.
And not only was he not jealous, that she kind of wished he was a little more jealous.
I think in the way that a wife would want a husband to be protective. Yes.
Okay. And during the time you were friends in DC with Anna, and during these conversations, she never told you that she was having a romantic relationship with Will Fastow.
Not specifically, no. We talked a lot about Will, but not that anything had ever actually happened.
Okay. So you believe that they had a connection and she had a crush, but she never told you that they had been romantic or intimate.
Correct.
I think you had said that during this conversation on the 29th, Anna had said that lately she was just feeling drained of energy, right?
Drained of energy just due to everything going on. Yeah.
Okay. And she had also told you that she was someone that would stay up late and get up early in the morning, right?
I think she kept a busy schedule, not that she specifically always stayed up late and got up early, but that, she was doing a lot, and she just was a very energetic, passionate person.
And towards the end of December, there was a shift. There was a change in that.
Yes.
And she told you that she was falling asleep earlier and getting up later, and that was unusual for her.
Yeah, that she was really just starting to be sad, and everything was taking a toll on her. Yeah.
Okay. And it was, but when she was reporting this to you, she was talking about how even sleep, that she was falling asleep earlier, falling asleep earlier in the night. She was sleeping later in the morning than she usually would.
I don't recall that exactly, just that she said that she felt so tired and burnt out.
Okay. You had mentioned that you had plans to get together on 12/29, but you also had plans to go out on December 20th, the week before.
I don't think I remember that exactly.
Okay.
But we often would try to make plans and then things would shuffle. So,
Okay. The plans I'm talking about on the 20th, she had canceled because she wasn't feeling well.
right. Yes.
Okay. You shared with us during that long night out with Anna that the two of you were talking a lot about how it was difficult that she was away from her family. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, I apologize. And she told you that she said to Brian, you need to resolve this. Even if you go to jail, we'll be here for you when you get out.
She didn't specifically say like this, then this. It was more like a conversation about taking responsibility, accountability, what that would mean, that could mean just owning it and taking the jail time if that was because the sentencing hadn't happened. So we didn't know exactly what it would be, but that was something she wanted for him to take care of their family in that way and just take responsibility,
Okay.
have it be done.
And I think you told us earlier on direct that she said to him, we'll be there even if that happens, meaning her and the boys.
And I don't think she said that directly. It was more like communicating to me that she wanted their family to be together even if that meant
Okay,
jail time. Yeah.
okay.
So I think they were still figuring out like what to do. They'd been living apart and she wasn't sure what would happen.
And so what you're telling us is that she wanted her family together
Mhm.
and that she wanted him to do whatever it took so that her and Brian and the boys could be together.
Yeah.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Ms. Kirby, did she want her family together?
Objection, Your Honor.
She stated it, she can answer it. So rephrase the question.
On December 29th, did she tell you, did she want her family together?
I think
Objection, Your Honor. As to
All right, listen to the question, answer the question if you can.
On December 29th, what did she tell you about if she wanted her family together?
she said that she wanted her family together. She also was exhausted and not really sure what to do, but I think she
Objection,
wanted
Your
her.
Honor, as to I think.
All right. Sustained.
On December 29th, what did she tell you about if she loved the defendant, Brian Walshe?
She told me that he would often not tell her he loved her and would always ask her how much she was in love with him. And that she told me that this time she answered not as much because of everything that had happened. And yeah, that she was falling out of love, and also that she wanted, I think she saw.
Objection, Your Honor. As to I
Again,
think she saw.
I know it's a long time ago, but it has to be the statement she made to you, not what you think
Okay.
or what you understood from it. It's statements that she made to you.
Okay. Sorry.
And on December 29th of 2022, how did she physically appear to you?
Tired.
And on December 29th of 2022, did you go out to karaoke?
Yes.
And did she go dancing?
Yeah. It was karaoke dancing.
Thank you.
And recross,
No, thank you.
the witness may step down. Thank you. Also, counsel at the side of the bench.
That was an interesting exchange. Seeing if Jen is here. Jen, are you here? Do you want to add anything?
Yes. Hi. How are you, Kevin?
Hi, good. Just been watching and listening.
Yes, me too. I thought that was very interesting. I agree. I didn't like it. It's difficult, I think, when witnesses take the stand and it's very opinion oriented.
Right.
I just, I didn't like that witness that much.
The theme of the day for the last couple witnesses for the defense is to try to show, and I don't think it makes that much difference in the trial, but it does go to motive. They've somewhat been able to show Brian was not a jealous husband. That's what they've been trying to show.
Right. That's definitely there.
And there's no evidence. Right.
I just
There's no
think
evidence that he
Oh,
had been.
sorry.
No, go ahead. No, just that there's no evidence that he had been a jealous husband in these other situations, including when he potentially could have been with her friend Jem. So, but just because he had not displayed jealousy in the past didn't mean it wasn't building up and didn't come out in an outburst on January 1st, right? So,
right. I've always said that I think that the motive in this was more money involved,
Mhm.
money motivated, worrying about losing his sugar mama, if you will. She was the moneymaker, and
Mhm.
life insurance and just everything involved, all his financial difficulties. I've always felt that in this case, this was largely that being a motive, even over the, jealousy
Right.
thing.
Yeah, she
How
made a
about
lot of
you?
money. That was
She
the
made a
testimony
lot of
that came in
money.
earlier today. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was big, right? He's in all sorts of trouble.
Mhm.
And, from a financial
I'm
standpoint.
going to read another stipulation to you now. And this is a stipulation, again, an agreement of the parties, simply an agreement of the parties. A stipulation regarding the federal prosecution of Brian Walsh. Brian Walsh was arraigned in the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts in Boston, Massachusetts on May 11th, 2018. On April 1st, 2021, Brian Walsh pled guilty to indictments for wire fraud, interstate transportation for a scheme to defraud, and conducting an unlawful monetary transaction. On October 6, 2021, an initial sentencing hearing took place in the United States District Court. Brian Walsh was seeking a sentence of probation and restitution, while the government, through the United States Attorney's Office, was seeking a sentence which included incarceration of 30 to 37 months, restitution in the amount of approximately $475,000. January 2023, Brian Walsh had not been sentenced on the federal charges. Brian Walsh was represented by a lawyer in all stages of this federal case. Commonwealth may call the next witness.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth rests.
All right, thank you. So with that, jurors, I told you that this case proceeds in chapters. That chapter of this case is closed. That is, the Commonwealth has presented all the evidence it wishes to present in this case. As I've told you from the beginning, there is no obligation, no burden on the defendant to do anything. And so I remind you of that. The burden does not rest with the defendant. All the burden of proof is always on the Commonwealth, and it stays always on the Commonwealth. The defendant has the option to present evidence if he wishes to. I'm going to suspend the hearings for today, and we'll see you back tomorrow at 9 o'clock, ready to begin the day. Thank you very much. And before you leave, I remind you, don't do any research about this case. Don't go on social media or any news media. Don't speak to anyone about this case, and continue to have open minds as you receive the evidence in this trial. Have a good night, jurors.
If there's anything all right, first, please leave your notebooks in the chair.
We'll just watch to make sure there's no other court business. But the prosecution is sure there may be some business. Looks like.
What do we need to discuss?
First, we probably need to discuss, and that would move for required finding an actor.
Go right ahead.
And, Chief and Sheriff.
Give me a second to read your pleading. All right, I'll hear from you.
For the most part, Judge, I'm just going to rely on that pleading, but what's important in this case, for purposes of arguing the Lattimore standard and the required findings, that in the facts and circumstances of this case, even if you consider all of the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, that the circumstantial evidence and the inferences have not been proven on the elements of premeditation and intent. And it's important to distinguish the fact that where inferences can be reasonable when they have to do with other factual issues that do not constitute the specific elements of the crime charged, here, the inference must be beyond a reasonable doubt because it must support the element of premeditated murder, and it must support the specific intent to kill. And whereas the Commonwealth has based their whole prosecution on what we characterize as a three-pronged approach, that motive evidence that they theorize supports an inference of intent and premeditation, they have failed to present the type of quantity and quality of evidence that would then result in an inference beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Walsh ever premeditated a murder or ever manifested the specific intent to kill. The three-prong approach that the Commonwealth took in this case was that Mr. Walsh was motivated by financial interest, which has not been established by any inference sufficient to carry the day, even on the Lattimore standard. The second prong is that somehow Mr. Walsh was using his children and his role as primary care provider to avoid going to prison, and that has not been established by any sufficient evidence. And then there's the third prong, and it has to do with the affair, and where it seems clear that the Commonwealth has established that Anna Walsh did in fact engage in an intimate affair with William Fastow. They have failed to establish sufficiently to withstand a Lattimore standard that he even knew about the affair. In fact, if you consider the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth from their own witnesses, there is no evidence presented to this jury that he knew about the affair, that he reacted to any knowledge of the affair. And in fact, the reaction that he had fell far short of someone that was even jealous of the fact that Miss Walsh reported to him specifically that she had a crush on Mr. Fastow. And I understand, we understand that whereas motive is not an element, that's not what we're arguing. And I say in our motion that if the government stands up and says, since motive is not an element, that the argument that we just made doesn't apply. Well, that misses the point, because that is the whole foundation of their prosecution in this case. And so respectfully, Judge, in the unusual circumstances and the complex circumstances presented in this case, I would ask that a required finding be entered on indictment 001.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Viewed in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, the evidence is sufficient for a jury to find the defendant guilty of the premeditated murder of Anna Walsh. Your Honor, as to evidence that the defendant killed Anna Walsh, the defendant was the only adult in the house on January 1st after Mr. Mutlu left. There's evidence before the court that Anna was a fit and active 39-year-old, and in fact that she participated in a vigorous exercise class at Bar Method on the 31st of December, where she demonstrated that she was in good physical condition. Evidence of the bloody slippers, bloody bath towels, bloody carpet, on his broken Gucci necklace, combined with the defendant's internet searches about cleaning blood from wood floors, his purchase of large quantities of cleaning products, are sufficient for the jury to find that Anna met a violent death in the living quarters of 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. I'd also point out there was a cut on the defendant's thumb, and there was evidence that he did purchase Band-Aids and some antibiotic cream on January 1st. As to deliberate premeditations, there's evidence that the defendant was aware of Anna's relationship with another man. He told police that he monitored the Chase credit card statement. That is an evidence before the court. That statement includes a purchase of a plane ticket to Dublin in Thanksgiving over the Thanksgiving holiday in 2022. The defendant was aware of Anna's itinerary. He told police that he had suggested that she go out during a layover in Frankfurt, which she did have a layover in Frankfurt at one point of that travel. And again, looking at that travel, it's clear that looking at the Chase statement that it was indicated a trip to Dublin. And the defendant told police that she had only gone to Serbia to see her mother. And I suggest the evidence is more than sufficient to find that he was aware of that trip to Dublin. He also searched Will Fastow's name on December 25th. And he also researched emergencies in buildings that Anna managed in DC. I'd also point out that the defendant's phone, which he said was mislaid from December 31st to January 2nd, he told Mr. Mutlu that when Mr. Mutlu came for the New Year's Eve dinner. That phone was repeatedly unlocked and connected to a power source while it was supposedly missing. The evidence indicates that the defendant used that phone to create an alibi for himself. It explains why he was not contacting Anna. And then when he did say he recovered the phone, he started sending text messages to Anna, and he later showed those messages to police. It suggests he was using the missing phone as a way to create an alibi for himself. And to explain why there was no, he didn't have the phone with him when he went to Vin and Liquors and threw something into the dumpster, or when he was in Lowe's buying cleaning supplies and cutting tools on January 1st. Your Honor, there's also ample evidence of motive. There's evidence that the jury can find that if Anna took the children to DC, the possibility of the defendant avoiding jail time on the federal charges would lessen. We heard testimony today about the impact of that on Anna and what she intended to do. Anna also had life insurance policies and financial accounts, which the defendant was the named beneficiary, and he stood to inherit substantial funds if Anna Walshe were deceased. And also, Your Honor, the defendant's elaborate web of lies regarding Anna allegedly leaving for a work emergency in DC. He lied to friends, family, and the police about that. I suggest that that also is sufficient evidence to give this case to the jury, and would ask that you deny that motion for required finding of not guilty.
All right. The Latimer standard dictates that I take every inference, all the evidence and all the reasonable inferences from that evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth. Adopting that standard, I'm not convinced by the defendant's motion. I'm not going to repeat the evidence that the Commonwealth has just, in brief, summarized for the court. That evidence that this jury has heard and seen is adequate to allow the jury to deliberate the case, in that, again, drawing all the inferences, reasonable inferences from the evidence that's before this jury, there is sufficient evidence for this case to go to the jury for them to determine the three elements that are before them. But it gets over the Latimer standard. So the defendant's motion is denied.
We would just object to the record.
I understand. You indicated to me at the side of the bench there were some evidentiary issues you wanted to address with me.
There are. Can we go to the sidebar for these, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
So very routine there at the end of the prosecution's case. The defense always files a motion saying they didn't prove their case and asks the judge to rule. So this happens in every trial.
Mm-hmm. So we heard reference to the Lattimore standard, and Judge Carroll says the Lattimore standard is lower than beyond a reasonable doubt. So I looked it up. Core principle, it's a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court established this. When a defendant moves for a required finding of not guilty, the judge must ask, could a rational jury, viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, which is what the judge said, find each element of the crime proven beyond a reasonable doubt? So it is reasonable doubt, but only in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth,
Right.
which seems like a contradiction a little bit, but
Yeah, I see your
this
point.
this standard closely tracks the U.S. Supreme Court rule Jackson versus Virginia, which also requires sufficiency of evidence to be judged by whether a rational fact finder could convict beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's kind of a key thing there. That is they don't want to supplement the jury here. They want, so as long as a jury could, or a juror could, find this beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's the standard there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
It's tricky though, huh, Jim?
It kind of is. I mean, literally, this happens after every trial, not particularly the Latimer, but this sort of motion by the defense when the prosecution rests. I find it interesting that I think it was Maui Swift that brought up the rumor, and the rumor proved true. Indeed, they rested today.
Yeah, that turned out to be true. And well, I guess the judge might have mentioned it yesterday, and we didn't realize she was going to keep speaking at that point, so we kind of talked over her. But Maui and a couple others were able to hear it. So and I thought the defense made it, just from an intellectual standpoint, an interesting point here. I mean, there really was very little, not convincing evidence of motive, to my mind. I mean, it's kind of speculative, it's kind of thin. I mean, we know he did it, but in terms of motive, I don't know.
Well, the judge kept using, and so did the prosecution, inference, and that's such a vague term. But basically, can you infer, facts that aren't blatantly presented?
Right.
Can
fact,
we
when
infer? Yeah. Sorry.
Just to say, when we had Judge Carroll on, that was one of the questions that I asked her about, exactly in legal terms, what the word inference means, because it's a little bit of a difficult concept. It's not as, it did require some explanation. So.
Yeah, I remember you asking that, and it was a good question. But, basically, can you make the assumption, almost an assumption, that a piece of evidence, if it's not blatantly stated, means something?
Right. I think the example she used, if you see the mailman on the street and then a little while later you find mail in your mailbox, you can infer that the man put the mail in the mailbox even though you didn't see him do it.
I found that to be an interesting remark. So a lot of times when I'm talking about circumstantial evidence, I use the analogy that if I look out my window and my grass is green and I go to bed and I wake up and it's white with snow, I know it snowed. So, and I remember her talking about the inference, because I think her point was, my point is more solid in terms of circumstantial evidence leading to a conclusion, and hers was truly showing an inference, because you got to be careful saying that the mailman put something in the box if you didn't see it, because the neighbor could have put something in the box, the UPS.
Right. That's very true.
The FedEx guy. There's all sort of people who could have put it in the box. So maybe that is what Judge Carroll was pointing out, is a more subtle inference as something happened, as opposed to circumstantial evidence, which can be much stronger than that. It can be much more obvious, which is why I draw the analogy I've always drawn.
Yeah, that was why, exactly, great example. That was why I asked that question, because I have had in times in the past found myself a little bit confused about trying to decipher between just where the line is on an inference and where between that and circumstantial evidence. And yeah, it's tricky because, like you say, and it happens here where the mailman puts the mail in the wrong box, and then the neighbor moves it over to your box when they realize it. So in that case, your inference would have been wrong.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting, but certainly the judge thinks, and the judge said that you could infer that she believes the inferences were made by the Lattimore standard, under the Lattimore standard. So, I mean, he's toast, I think. I really do. Because of his actions after.
Yeah, it's one of those things where common sense tells us what happened. And I don't think there's anybody in that courtroom that would deny it. But it's difficult here when you're going by the letter of the law that there are no witnesses, there is no body, and it's just limited evidence. And so then you're forced to build a stronger case on motive. And in this case here, there is, you can conceive of a motive. I do think it was interesting is when the friend was saying, Jem, that the phone was missing. It wasn't actually missing because we know that it was on the charger. But again, that's to prove that. But that to me was maybe the closest it came to real evidence for premeditation because he was trying to set something up. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I did find that interesting. You make a good point. I mean, the bottom line is anything he did in advance of that crime needs to be looked at really closely by this jury. And as to premeditating his actions that he ended up taking.
Right. You have that and you have the search on. Good.
No, I was just going to mention the knife. The knife really bothers me. And the blood on the knife. Just the fact it was put back and just the whole thing. Just, I found it interesting that wasn't disposed of.
Maui, we think alike. That's what I was just trying to say was the very thing. So the December 25th search of Anna Walshe found dead. We're forced to speculate what it means, but it's a very odd search, So again, are you allowed to speculate in the jury? Is that an inference? I mean, I don't think we can really infer what he actually meant when he made that search, because there's too many different things it could have been. So, but is some degree of speculation allowed, or is it up to the jury to decide?
It certainly is. And juries speculate and infer, and they can take their own, thoughts and experiences and in deliberations and, rely on those to some extent. Juries really, in a sense, there's a lot of loopholes where juries can make their own decisions, not necessarily based on the evidence. That's what I think.
Right. Music by Brian. Someone told me that they don't need to prove premeditation because first degree in this state can include other aggravating factors, not just premeditation. So this was, we've been trying to dissect the way this works. Thank you, Brian. And I have not got a legal explanation to me that satisfies me or that I was able to understand. Let's put it that way. Maybe I just wasn't able to understand it as to what the options are here. So there seemed to be some mention of the fact that the state, because they were the way this crime was based, they had no choice but to go with first degree. Like Judge Carroll said, second degree would make more sense, and it does to me too. But I don't really, was there some legal reason why they chose to go with first degree? Because we don't know what happened and whether it was premeditated.
I think they should have gone with
What
second
other-
degree, personally.
Yeah, it does make more to our, and you and I aren't lawyers, and that makes more common sense to us. But Carol said that too, so and it makes more sense to her. But Brian is saying that you don't need to prove premeditation. Well, I mean, premeditation obviously can be up to a second before, but again, nobody was there, so we don't know what. So you're looking for those signs of premeditation that he was planning something. I think you have the weird search on the 25th, and you have that he was up to something that night when he told about the phone. And as far as the knife, I also wondered. This is why, to me, I wanted to know what room this took place in, but I guess we don't know. Because if we did, was there a knife? Was it pre-stashed there? And again, you're required to speculate. Like, for instance, let's say I don't think he was, but let's say Anna had been murdered in the bathroom. Why would you have a butcher knife in the bathroom? You know what I'm saying? And are you allowed to speculate that it's unusual to have a butcher knife in the bathroom, unless you planned on murdering your wife in the bathroom and you stashed the knife there ahead of time? Does that make sense, Jen?
Oh, yeah, and that's my exact point.
Yeah.
If it's second degree and it was a crime of passion, if it was something he didn't plan, he would have needed to be in the same room with the knife when he chose to use it on her, if indeed everybody believes that she was stabbed to death, which I believe that. I just don't believe that knife was used to dismember when he had the other tools available to him.
I don't know if you were listening yesterday when I was talking about it with Margaret. So I agree with you, and Margaret does too, that you wouldn't dismember a body with a knife. But it's also, especially that kind of knife, and you talked about it too, like referring to the K-bar knife. Very difficult to attack somebody with that kind of knife. It's gonna, when the knife hits bone, it's gonna cut you. It's gonna slide up onto your hand. And I was wondering about the scenario. I mean, it's gruesome to talk about, but if he's attacked her and she's unconscious, and he's trying to finish her off, and that's what he thinks to do instead of strangling her, is just for whatever reason. Is that I don't know. Does that seem like a possibility to you, or?
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. I've explained a lot of times about strangling somebody is very, very difficult. I'll lead everybody to a case everybody sort of knows about, is the Gabby Petito case. A lot of people believe, she was just throttled. She was manually strangulated, but she was also beaten, about the face and head. And it's just a lot of force over a lot of time to actually have somebody expire. Not be unconscious, but actually pass away, and they can go in and out of consciousness. And so I definitely think it's plausible for somebody who doesn't have the wherewithal, the strength, the time, that they may want to use a knife to finish the job they began.
Right. And he doesn't look like a very rugged or strong guy.
Yeah, where I struggle with is if truly this was his plan, and truly he was upset and all worked up, and she comes back and all of this. I just think he would have bought all of that stuff in advance. And I understand premeditation can just be seconds before the crime, but and that certainly that search that you posted, that Maui wrote, the one we talked about ad nauseum, right? What did he mean by that? Why would he do that? I've always said it's just because he wanted to see what would come up if he put that in. Could it have related to that plane? That's probably what makes more logical sense. But in some sense, but it's hard to say.
Music by Brian, coming to us from your channel, Jen, says that in Massachusetts, he looked it up. First degree murder in Massachusetts involves an unlawful killing committed with deliberate premeditation, malice aforethought, with extreme atrocity or cruelty, or during the commission of certain punishable felonies.
Thanks for posting that, Brian. Yeah, it's complicated, I think. And it, I don't know if they've really proven it. I would be a tough one to be on that jury because
Yeah.
I would be struggling with, we don't know, I would have just charged second degree. Let me just say it that way. Because I truly believe this was some sort of crime of passion where he absolutely lost it that night, didn't plan to lose it, but lost it.
And this is where, so jury nullification comes in different forms. Oh, we may get a decision here. All right.
All right. So I think that we all have our tasks for the evening, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Anybody need anything? All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So has it ever been decided by the judge yet? I know she had asked both sides for opinion on what could be told the jury as far as Brian's pleas that took place at the beginning of jury selection when he pled guilty to disposing the body and misleading the police.
I haven't seen a ruling yet. I don't think it's on the record yet. But they're getting down to crunch time where they're going to have a ruling.
Yeah.
And I think because of the Harmony Montgomery case, and just because it is so prejudicial as opposed to probative, and they were allowed to admit all the evidence they needed to show that he dismembered her, I don't think it's going to be allowed. But we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't allow it.
Brian Dudney says that Brian Walsh calling her friend the week before also shows premeditation. He says to the friend, "I know we just went through this a week ago." So I don't know. I'm not sure. Does that I think we saw they were having marital problems, and obviously Anna was having an affair and he knew something of it. But what I was starting to say before they came back for that was that jury nullification can take different forms. We think of it as jury nullification as helping the defendant, where they ignore their duties. But it can come the other way too, where the jury says, "All right, we're told to decide this on a matter of law, but as a matter of common sense, we know this guy's guilty, so we're still going to vote guilty."
See, I don't consider
you know what I'm saying? They can.
I don't consider that nullification. Nullification to me, when I think of that in the true form, is justice nullified due to a social issue or another issue that you're making a point about. O.J. Simpson, race, Karen Reed, public corruption, as examples. I think that there is a difference between that and, like I said, using common sense, using inference to reach a conclusion. So I wouldn't call it nullification. This is just my opinion. I would call that, the jury, if they do convict him, even though they don't exactly know how he killed her, that they're taking all those inferences. And the biggest problem is he dismembered her. And nobody is believing that she just died in her sleep right now. I can't imagine any fool believing that.
I would say that, to me, nullification is if a juror decides to ignore the instructions. The juror's job is to decide the facts of the case, to decide what are the facts of the case. And if they ignore those instructions in any way or for any reason, might even be justified. I don't know, but I'm just saying it's so if they vote guilty here, I am not saying that that's automatically nullification. What I am saying is that if they decide that if they got in the room and decided that the state didn't present enough evidence to prove that there was that the conditions of first-degree murder were met, but yet they still voted to convict, isn't that a form of nullification? That's all I'm saying.
I see what your point is. Yeah, I think, though, if they reach the conclusion she's guilty of first degree, it is going to be based on everything afterwards, combined with the few spattering of information ahead of that, right? Talking about divorce in a Google search, and then the Googling Anna Walsh dead, some things like that. And then mentioning murder after. What to do with a body after you murder your wife, or I'm totally paraphrasing, and that wasn't the exact Google search, but murder was used, and I believe 2 of those.
Right.
If anybody
And
has that handy.
And at no time after the fact, after he allegedly killed her, did he display any signs of panic? So that almost lends credence to the argument that he had been planning this, or at least thinking about it for a while, instead of just had something where he reacted and did it. But not necessarily, because some people don't panic. But I mean, I don't know. It's
Well, I tell you what I never understood was why other than if it was just about money, if he's truly under the delusion that he's going to get off, and then this way he gets the money because it's, he wouldn't be convicted of taking her life. But I never understood why he didn't come up with the defense of, I panicked. I was so enraged, a crime of passion. So I shouldn't say the word panicked. I should say passion. I was so angry when I came to find out truly that she had, had an intimate relationship. I was so angry at the dissolution of our family that was coming. Maybe she said she was leaving me. He could say anything he wants. There's nobody there on the opposite side to rebut whatever scenario he wanted to come up with. But any scenario is more believable than she died in her sleep and rolled off the bed. It's so ludicrous. And they know he's a fraudster now, right? That's going to be read to them, that he's a liar. And we always talk about, when we're calling witnesses in federal cases, we never want to call somebody who's been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. We'll call somebody who's murdered somebody all day long, but they better not have lied about it. So whenever you have somebody that wrote a bad check, they are worse under the law in terms of being believable on the stand than a murderer, as long as the murderer is not a liar. Does that make sense? But when you have a pattern and a conviction for lying, that shows you have absolutely zero credibility. And that's, I think, going to be a big problem if he does take the stand.
Right. So maybe we can end it there. Do you think he will take the stand? And if so, do you think he'll be up first? So will we see him on the stand potentially tomorrow?
He has to take the stand if they have any chance to win. He has nothing to lose. He can always hope to somehow cry on the stand, talk about how, yes, he knew. He should even say he knew about the affair, but he didn't care. They had an open marriage, which is what would piggyback off of the other witness, and he could say, he needs to convince one juror that he was truly, horrified at the loss of his wife. So he could get up there and try to put on a show, like Murdaugh did. Perfect example. Because remember, the only thing that got Murdaugh was he had no idea that the prosecution was holding that piece of footage where his voice shows him down there. And he lied about being down at the kennels where the crime took place. So,
Do you think he'll bring in any kind of experts or any kind of witnesses? Like, will there be an expert, for instance, a doctor, to testify how people can die in their sleep, for instance, even healthy people?
Remember, they tried to bring that out in the ME that was already on the stand.
Right.
And
the medical examiner.
I doubt if they go any further than that, because that, they're just going to say, I couldn't examine anybody. So, it's already on the record that people can die in their sleep and that it's very rare for a healthy person. And we know she was healthy purportedly from exercising. So I think that would be a mistake. I think the only thing they can do is put him on the stand. And I don't think it's going to work, but I just don't think they have any other evidence they can put on that
Right.
would be meaningful.
Right.
What do you
So
think?
we might see this wrap up tomorrow then, right?
I think it's possible. I
I
really
mean, it's a
do.
week early. Just last week, the judge told the jury to expect it to go till next Friday, but I can't really imagine.
No, you know what? She, again, I keep singing her praises, but she keeps this thing moving along. The prosecutor did a good job not belaboring points. The defense attorney has nothing to work with, virtually nothing to work with. And he's
Yeah.
not a crazy showman, and he's not he doesn't get off on tangents, and I don't think she would allow it, even if he wanted to. So it's really gone at record speed. I could see it absolutely wrapping up tomorrow or the next day at the latest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, please come back and join us tomorrow because we may see the most interesting part of the case, which would include closing arguments if that comes tomorrow, or maybe those would come Friday. But we might see Brian testify tomorrow. And, very rare for somebody like this to testify in their own case. But like Jen said, he probably has to, and his own lawyer in opening statements indicated he would to the jury. So that's a promise made to them in a certain extent. So to back out of it is risky. Why even hint at that might be the case with the jury if he's not going to do it? So he doesn't have to, but it does seem like he likely will.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm here for it. Most
Jen, did you have
interesting part
any?
of this.
Did you have any breaking news on some of those guests, special guests you had told us about on the side that might be coming on your channel?
No, I wanted to reiterate that Cameron Malin, obviously, he is the most premier digital forensic profiler, if you will, head of that unit in the FBI for years, started that unit in the FBI, and he's definitely coming on February 16th, which is a Monday. I don't have that time. He's in London right now teaching. And when he gets back, though,
what is a digital forensic profiler?
okay, so you know how most profilers, behavioral scientists, if you will, people in our behavioral science unit, they look at things that were done by that individual, right? They concentrate on things that were said and the crime and how the crime was committed and notes that were taken and what was at the crime scene. Well, he actually analyzes the digital footprint of individuals specifically and takes that and uses that to profile those individuals. So it's the most up and coming, I think, really important. We can talk to him about it, but I believe he worked on Brian Koberger. He's very, very interesting guy. He does a lot of expert work throughout the United States. He's also teaches and does seminars like the one he's doing. So he's incredible. I'm so excited to have Cameron on. I really want to make sure, and I hope people that follow you, people that follow Margaret, and then of course my followers, anything that you want to send me, please. I'll probably actually do a post about this today or tomorrow. And any questions that you have, anything like that, would be great to make sure I don't miss anything. I have so many thoughts in my head on different cases, but he's looked at a lot. He was with the Bureau 20-something years. He was a assistant United States attorney before that in Miami.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. I definitely want to watch that, and I'll probably work up a question or two ahead of time and have it ready to launch into chat. That sounds really.
That was great. Yeah, he's great. I think I told you all that Amanda Knox, which is another one, communicated with her, and she's very open to coming on the show, but she is taking a break from doing appearances and everything. She just needs a break. And she said in 2026. So I've got an open line of communications with her handlers and with her. So I'm hopeful that sometime in 2026, sooner rather than later, she will come on. I'm really looking forward to that interview.
I think she deals with a lot of hostility too, and the public that still has beliefs. So probably difficult for her to do some of. She probably has to have a thick skin to do a lot of those appearances.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think it's tough on her. And I can't imagine everything she's been through. But that was one case from the very beginning. I was in her court. It made absolutely no sense from a victimology perspective, from a behavioral perspective, that she would have done that. There was zero really solid evidence that she was involved in that at all. So I've always been in her court, never bought that she was guilty of that crime. And
yeah,
so
and I didn't follow it closely, but I followed it enough, and I agree with you. So you know, I did, and they did the guy that I forget his name that probably was the killer. Right? I don't remember. Was he convicted of it, or he was convicted of something else? But
yeah, no, he was convicted. He's
Yeah.
you know, and that made all the sense in the world. I mean, this was a vicious, horrendous crime. And for some schoolgirl over there, had a boyfriend, and then all of a sudden they're going to come back and viciously rape and assault and molest and brutalize this girl. It was so ridiculous. It never made any sense to me. It was kind of like the first time I ever looked at the Sandra Birchmore evidence. I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense that she would be, responsible for this. Or
it
he
didn't
would.
at all for that kind of crime. And the Italians were Italian police, I should, motive was witchcraft or something weird like that. It was just bizarre.
With absolutely no evidence of that. And Elizabeth
Almost
Smart,
like they threw that out there because they couldn't think of a motive,
with these stranger or person that's not close to them type of crimes, like the Idaho 4 crimes, things like that. It's so difficult for police because when the murderer isn't in the inner circle or even on the really outside of the inner circle, somebody that they went to class with every day or something like that, it's tough for these, for law enforcement to make the case. It really is. And so they just weren't patient enough because it was coming around. They would have gotten to the truth, I think, but then they just jumped on her and wouldn't get off of her. So, yeah, and I'm hoping to have Greg McCrary back on. He and John Douglas were the original first two profilers, behavioral scientists, if you will, in the FBI. And he is amazing, Greg McCrary. He was on my very first show where we analyzed, amongst other cases, JonBenet Ramsey, Moxley, the horrible Moxley murder there in Massachusetts. So he was amazing. And then he came back on again, maybe a year ago, to analyze one of the school shooters that was transgender and talk all about that. That's a really interesting interview, I think. And then I talked to him last week, and he's going to come on again, and we're just trying to ferret out a case that would be perfect in his wheelhouse that he wants to address.
That'd be great. And Margaret's back. Welcome back, Margaret.
Oh,
and
yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear
Jen
the
was
annoying leaf blower in
Yeah,
the
we can-
background?
Nope.
No.
Not at
Oh,
all.
good. Okay.
Nope,
My
sounds
neighbor's
fine.
blowing leaves of all.
Jen was just telling us that she's having on a special guest who is an FBI. I'm not sure if she said FBI, but a forensic data profiler. So he
Ooh.
does he does profiling that is built entirely on looking at, or primarily on looking at forensic data. So a very specialized kind of niche kind of thing. So that's going to be really interesting in February.
Oh, yeah. My son would love that. And he's going to be in, cybersecurity and all that. So we'll have to watch that.
Yeah, he's gonna, I'm letting him just take it away. I definitely want to have a lot of good questions for him, but he's going to be great. And I hope everybody looks at his background, FBI for about 20 years. And so I'm excited to have him on. And and then I was just meeting actually just over lunch, and they were asking me also about Tim Tebow because we were all at the same conference with Tim, and I'm hoping to not only have Tim on my show, but I'm hoping to teach the women that are at all of his shelter houses for these young girls that have been sexually assaulted over years, times in some cases, that they rescue and they put in these programs to teach self-defense to them. So I'm really working on that angle as a philanthropic endeavor with Tim Tebow.
That's great. So do you guys think I should go to court tomorrow? I have to be on the Commonwealth Confidential show, which is not too far from the courthouse. Do you think he's going to testify tomorrow? That might be really cool to go and watch that.
Yes, Margaret, they arrested today.
Oh, I know it. They arrested it, but I mean, they do have some witnesses, experts lined up. I saw their witness list talking about the sudden death syndrome or whatever it is.
Oh, God.
And
he just asked me about that, and I said I didn't think they would waste their time with that, but apparently they're going to waste their time and money with that.
I mean, these experts are on the list. So I think you mentioned earlier that I thought and I agree, I thought the defense did a nice job with the medical examiner for the Commonwealth getting out what that sudden death syndrome thing is all about, and healthy people can die. So he asked quite a few questions about that. So maybe they won't call an expert, but I'm wondering if I should go to court tomorrow, and I don't know.
Well, would it make sense, Margaret, if from the point of view of the defense, to have Brian, if they do intend to have him take the stand, for him to come and tell his story before they have those experts up? I think it would, but what do you think?
Probably. Why do you think it would? What's your thought?
Well, because you're going to be telling the jury, and they have been told already this, I guess, maybe it doesn't matter. They were already told in the opening statements this, but for him to get up and tell the jury that this is what happened, and maybe they'll find themselves thinking, well, is that possible? But then you have the experts come on to say, yes, this is when it happens, and it does happen.
I totally concur.
Yeah.
That you have to lay the foundation with him, or it's just, that's what I think.
Well,
but
you're
they
right.
might,
Yes.
but they could wait for the coup de grace, right? They could wait for the blockbuster, witness getting up. I don't know. If I lived in Massachusetts, girl, I would be sitting in that courtroom.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. And
Good.
I'll try to text you guys, and
Okay.
I'll start the stream in the morning, and then I was experimenting.
Do you want me to do it, Margaret? And so you can
Oh
go?
yeah.
Or?
Oh wait, what is tomorrow? Thursday? Yeah, if I'm gonna go in.
Yeah,
that
we
would
were
be great.
planning on, right.
I was trying to figure out how to do the stream from my phone too. I've got to spend some time and figure that out, because as you probably saw me trying to get in and then being, I don't know, in and out.
Yeah, at one point we let you in, but you were in the middle of an interview. I guess I turned
Okay.
out to be on Surviving the Survivor this morning.
Yeah. So you
And
can hear
so
me. Oh my.
I realized and Jen was here too, after about 10 seconds that you were talking, you were doing something else, but I let you in and we heard another male voice asking you a question.
Yeah.
And so we was only about 10 seconds and then I took you out.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Because as you know, Jen, you've been asked to go on different things. And so they wanted a prosecutor's perspective on Surviving the Survivors. So I was sometimes you try to juggle things and it's tough, but I'm back. I'm in one piece, even though the leaf blower next door is driving me nuts. I don't know why they're blowing leaves now. I would think they'd be frozen to the ground, right, Kevin?
We have 2 inches of snow here, so there'd be no leaf blowers here.
Yeah.
Um,
Gosh. Anyway.
But so I'd be happy to run it tomorrow, but I definitely, just a reminder, need you to run it Friday because I'm getting chemo.
I
so
will.
I'll
I
be
promise.
walking
I'm running it
about-
Friday. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, very good.
Kevin, we're thinking about you. Hopefully everybody in chat continues to pray for our friend Kevin. He, Friday he has chemo and he hates it probably when I get on and say this and try to do, food for him and all the other things I've tried to do, but we really care about you, Kevin. I know you just want to be your normal yellow cottage tail writer, but we know you're dealing with a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the kind thoughts, and I can just definitely say too, for other people that haven't had chemo and then someday face it, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's just the traffic driving into Boston is the worst part. So, if you face that situation, you'll be fine. Don't worry. You'll be fine.
That is a brave voice right there. Like
know.
Valvano. I just watched Valvano, for those of you who know I'm talking about, Jimmy Valvano. I'm a big sports freak. And boy, his SB speech was so good all those years ago, talking about, never give up, keep fighting. My morning tweet this morning was, he said 3 things you have to do every day. 1, laugh. 2, cry. And 3, be passionate about
You
something.
lost Jen. Oh, am I back?
You lost me?
I think I lost connection for a bit. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's okay. Did you hear the 3 things he said? Cry, laugh, and be passionate about something. And that's how to live life. That was, Jimmy Valvano's mantra. And so I actually posted something that was funny this morning, just saying, all right, it's time to laugh, everyone. So anyway, I just have so much respect for you, Kevin, for the fight you're putting on.
He was very inspirational, and I played on my channel, believe it or not, a commercial that came out last year. I think it was from Honda, but it's incredibly inspirational and creative. It starts out reading, it sounds like somebody's quitting, and they read the words out, and then when it gets to the end, they read the same words back in reversing the sentences, and now it has the opposite meaning now, and that it just was I found it to be the most inspirational commercial I've ever seen. In fact, I'm going to see if I can find it, since this was such a short commercial while you guys are talking.
Great. And for people who don't know who Jimmy V is, do you know who Jimmy V is, Margaret?
No.
So
North Carolina
he's
State.
a very famous basketball coach because he coached North Carolina State the year that they beat in 1983 Phi Slamma Jamma, who was actually my team, one of my teams that I loved, the Houston Cougars. Obviously, I lived in Houston for many years as an FBI agent. It was my first office, and my uncle was there. I'm flying there actually for one of my nephew's weddings in a few weeks. So I loved that team, and by far we were, favored to win. Akeem Olajuwon was on that team. Clyde Drexler. It was just an amazing team, and we got beat by them.
When did he do that famous speech? Was that like ESPN or like awards or something? And he came out, and he was very thin, and it was very inspirational. When was that, Jen?
Those were the ESPY Awards, and it was actually
Awards,
2 months before he died.
Yeah.
So we could look up the year he died. I want to say 2004, 2006, something like that. But literally, he's so strong in that speech. I thought he looked great. And
it was like the 1980s, wasn't it? I think it was like the 1980s. It was
that's when he coached. That's when he coached. I don't think it was. He was in the coach. He coached in 1983 was the year he had his huge victory. Remember, before that, he was with Rutgers, and he was also with, oh my gosh, Connecticut. He was an assistant with Connecticut, and then NC State was his big head coach job.
Here's
I know way too much about basketball.
I wouldn't I wouldn't normally play commercials, but it's only 30 seconds. And like I said, when I saw this, I was just immediately inspired by it.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name. Honda, the power of dreams. Proud partner.
So I don't know. I just found that particular commercial inspirational, that you never quit.
I like that.
I love that, Kevin. Yeah, I really do. Good one.
All of us as we get older in life, we face those kind of decisions and crossroads. And but I think you never stop dreaming, and you never quit. That's
right.
what I believe. But,
Very
all
good.
right, and just to quickly answer Maui's question, I'm not sure if I'll do the news thing or not tonight. I didn't repair anything, so what I'm going to do is just look at the news and see if there was anything interesting to talk about. There were some interesting science stories, so I may pop on around 6 or 6:30 and just do it very kind of spontaneously, but nothing prepared. So I may do that. So we'll see. But then for the rest of us, we will see everybody tomorrow. Did you want to stay on talking about things, Margaret?
It's up to you, Kevin. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're tired, I'm here. It's only 4:05. It depends on how long you guys want to chat.
What does our chat say? Is our chat ready to blow out of here?
I don't know. I can't
Does
tell.
We lost, and I should apologize to both of you too. We lost some followers, about a third of our audience earlier. We were having some technical difficulties. It was glitchy and the feed, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And I had 3 computers going, trying to figure it out. I think the problem was initially unrelated to that, but then when I had 3 computers going, trying to fix it, I think it overtaxed the router, internet, the wireless. So I don't know, and then it straightened out, but we lost about a third of the audience while we were dealing with that. So thank you to everybody that stayed, but I felt really bad because my feed is going over Jen's channel and Margaret's channel. So there's an extra responsibility, and I felt bad about it.
That's okay.
Well,
No worries.
I can.
Yeah.
I have almost no chat on this case, 0 chat basically. Certainly in Twitter, and then afterwards, people come by to check out what we had to say and the trial coverage. But yeah, unfortunately, I tell you, it's so different from Karen Reed, where there were so many in chat, at least on my channel. But and also I have to make an apology because I've been ridiculously otherwise committed a lot. So I'm so glad the 3 of us are doing this so we can kind of cover for each other's times we're away.
Yeah. And I'll be on in the morning tomorrow.
And some of your audience, both of you, what happens is unfortunately, because the chat, there's 3 channels, people will go to where the largest one is. So everybody, so people like Music by Brian end up coming over to my channel, even though they're normally in Jen's channel, just so they can comment where more people will see it. So, but normally he is one of Jen's guys. So, that's just the way it works.
And I respect that. I know they want to have more people to chat with other than 2 or 3 people. And
Right.
it's that's just the way it should be. So anyway, I have decided, though, I do not think I have actually been mulling this over with a lot of people, and I don't think I'll probably ever do a trial again like this format, even though I've really enjoyed this and would love to pop in if you guys do one again. Just because I feel so bad that it seems like my audience really is not that into the coverage, and I think it's so saturated. Right, every channel is covering this trial right now.
Right. It's an awful lot of work too.
Well, you guys have done more of the work than me. You've been on more, and you've actually run the live stream. So I really appreciate you all.
Yeah, we'll try to figure out, and we'll see if the future, what it holds. I don't know if I don't see any trials on the horizon, so I don't know if Margaret does.
Well, I don't see any. I have to look, but we also have to find trials that are televised because, yeah.
I mean, the trial that I'm most interested in right now at the top of my list is Luigi Mangione,
Yeah.
because I followed that from the second it broke, and it's not going to be televised, I don't believe at all. And
No.
certainly the federal trial isn't going to be.
No. So anything that's in federal court is not going to be televised. And I am also very interested in that. I mean, we can still hold shows on it. You know, we can do a recap at the end of the day. Obviously, one of us would have to follow somebody who was inside the courtroom. You know, it's going to be tough to get a seat inside the courtroom at the Mangione trial, I would imagine. So someone who is constantly tweeting from the courthouse, we'd have to follow, you know, a reliable feed like that and then report on it and talk about it. We could do something like that, but it's not quite the same.
And depending on when that trial is held and what's going on in my world, because I think it's going to be, well, the federal trial is way down the road.
Yeah.
And the New York trial is a little bit closer, but depending on what's going on, I mean, that would be a trial I would love to sit in on, you know, maybe for a week or so. So see about that.
Yeah.
And I like the trials where there's an element of mystery too. And it doesn't, and obviously the ideal mystery is if you're trying to figure out whether the person is guilty or not. But even if just whether you're figuring out whether the evidence was strong enough to convict that person, you know, say the OJ case or
yeah,
what's the guy that killed his wife and his son there? The
Adelson was big.
There's too many people who killed their wife and son.
Yeah, the big one that was on a year or two ago. I can't think. And he testified, you know, on his trial, and he, you know, worked up those crocodile tears. And,
Murdoch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think people had, you know, reason to watch that to see if the evidence would be convincing enough.
Yeah.
You know,
That was a big one.
I think the Luigi Mangione, look, if that evidence, and as far as I know, I checked earlier, there's been no ruling yet, but as long as that evidence is admissible, he is toast. The gun that was used to kill him is in there. The bullets, the quote unquote manifesto, the everything he had is going, and he's so linked in anyway with the videos and the hostel where he stayed, the ID he used, both in Altoona as well as for the hostel are the same. I mean, he's absolutely toast. The interesting part of that is another possible, what I consider a nullification case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is a case where people are so upset about healthcare and everything. Could he get off because of that?
Oh, it's possible, but you know,
Tom, which case Tom mentioned that he was, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that jury nullification, it's possible, but I think in the Karen Reed case, it was, you know, there was just so much to it, and there were so many different layers and things going on. So I think that jury nullification was, you know, more possible in the Karen Reed case than it would be in Mangione.
Yeah. Well, there were, you know, like I said, in California, they tried to name a banking reform bill or insurance reform bill in favor of him. So he's a hero to a lot of people, and
I know,
to us, you know, so you could get that end up in the jury. And who is it? So someone asked, Safardi asked if we'll be covering the Courtney Claney case. Do you guys know of that case? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do know that case.
Yeah.
You do know that case, Ben?
Yes. I've been covering it on my Twitter since it first happened. I think that is an interesting case because it's really a case about domestic violence and self-defense. And basically I think was completely the aggressor. There's a lot of footage of her aggressively attacking. It's just so different, right? It's so inverse of the normal situation with domestic violence.
Okay.
That's an interesting one.
When is that trial gonna begin, Jen?
I don't have that date of that trial. Maybe Safari knows the exact date. I'm just familiar with the
Curious.
case because I've covered it.
I'll Google it right now. When is the trial?
And that's a high profile. That's an interesting case, and it wouldn't be too long of a case. It's
Yeah, she's
a shorter.
facing charges of second-degree murder. I don't know. So a trial date hasn't been chosen yet.
Okay.
I don't think. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I'm not sure. There's so many different articles on it, so I don't. Does anybody in chat know if a trial date has been set yet? It didn't look like it to me, but whatever I Googled may be wrong. So that does sound interesting, though. Second-degree murder. I'd like to sink my teeth into that one. I like covering true crime in some of these trials.
Yeah, it is interesting. And Kevin, again, just to circle back with something else you talked about, I will definitely talk to both of my nephew and my niece, which I'll be seeing next week, about coming on your show. Again, they're authors, and certainly it's nothing I've ever covered on my channel, but I would tune in because they're very interesting. Authors.
Yeah, both of those.
For you, I know that's up your alley.
Yeah, exactly.
Even your nephew that worked with the undiscovered tribes down in South America. Though I watch a lot of shows on stuff like that, so that stuff really, really interests me.
Yeah, again, if anybody in chat wants to look that up, it's Lucas Bessire, Bessire. He's currently professor at the School of the Mines, but he just left Stanford, before that Princeton, Oklahoma. If you want to see any of his work, he has 2 books out. They're nonfiction. And then also Rebecca Coffindaffer, and she is the sci-fi writer that writes Crown Chasers was her big one, but then she has a whole new string of books now that she's just started, and I cannot remember. She actually sent me one and signed it and everything because I wanted it, not the Crown Chasers, but her newest one. So if you're into sci-fi,
yes,
pretty
yes,
interesting
definitely.
stuff.
Yeah, that sounds
Definitely,
great.
and just even the process of it that someone goes to be able to write and get published, and but also what they do to create their stories, how they choose their themes for something like sci-fi. There's a lot of aspects of it that I would be interested in.
There you go. Uh-oh.
Okay, so shall we call it a day and get back together tomorrow?
Yeah.
Sounds great. Everybody, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Margaret will be in court tomorrow, and we'll try to
Yeah,
get
but
a
not
feed
the whole
going.
day. Because remember, I don't want to
No,
deal with
no.
Boston traffic. So I'll get on with you guys and talk about the case in the morning and all that. And then, then I'll decide when to go. I don't know what to do. I wonder if he's going to get on right away. Huh. Well, what do you guys think I should do? When should I leave? I usually don't like to get stuck in traffic, but maybe it would be worth it getting stuck in traffic.
Thank you, Maui Swift.
Yeah.
You're the trial lawyer, so you know more than us. So
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, I definitely want to stream it too from my so I'll figure it all out, and I'll talk to you, Kevin, obviously before tomorrow morning.
Okay. And I'm up pretty early, so I can always
Okay.
start the stream earlier if I have to.
Yeah, because if I do leave for
So
court
you can
first
connect to it.
thing, yeah, that might work. So we'll talk about it. But I would love to be there and also report back to you guys like what the jury is, if they're looking at him, if they're snarling at him, or looking away from him, and I'd like to see what their faces show us. So to me, that's a big deal.
There's been I had a question, and this, again, these are things I don't know about. So there was someone sitting perpendicular to Brian Walshe in the courtroom. It's a woman. She's been there for the whole trial, and she's taking notes by hand in a yellow pad. And I don't think that's where reporters would be sitting there. So I'm wondering, could she be a court watcher, like a jury watcher for one of the sides, or what? Because she's facing the jury. I don't know. What do you think she's doing?
Well, I'll pay attention to that tomorrow. Just remind me. But maybe, is it possible, was she the one that argued the motion for directed verdict today? That wasn't her, was it? Okay.
No.
Um,
No, that was the redheaded woman that's
That might be an intern. That might, you know what? That could very well be a law student taking notes, but that's volunteering at the DA's office. So there's a lot of that. So was she older, younger?
More younger than older. Not
Okay.
super young, but more younger than older. Yeah.
I'll look tomorrow when I go.
Maui says paralegal for the defense. I don't know if she's guessing or if she knows that, but that's what I was wondering. Is it someone that, because you guys would probably have people there to watch the jury, right? And look for.
I don't know if either side is going to hire a jury consultant for this trial.
Okay.
But it might very well be a paralegal or a law student who is volunteering with the DA's office, and that might be their job to, take notes on the jury. I don't know.
Right.
I'll check it out tomorrow. I didn't notice her when good.
We lost Jen. I don't think Jen is coming back, but we're about to check out for the night anyway. So so thank you very much for Margaret from It's a Crime Media and Jen from Breaking the Case with Jen Coffenaffer, and we will see everybody tomorrow.
Yes. Excellent.
Okay.